Why is it that some people don't have to try at all while some have to do everything to get girls? Why is it that some guys can just walk into a room, say a couple of words, and girls seem to fall for them without effort? It's like they're not even trying. They have no clue about all these pickup artist techniques, no knowledge of the red pill, black pill, whatever pill. And yet, they somehow have this magnetic pull. Meanwhile, people like me are putting in every bit of effort, following every dating rule or hack I've ever heard of, and still nothing. No matches, no dates, no connections. It's like I'm invisible. I've spent hours, reading about cold approaches, trying to perfect my dating app profiles, watching videos about body language and what to say to keep a conversation going. But for what? My dating app matches are either non-existent or they ghost me before I can even get a conversation started. And when I do meet someone in person, I feel like I'm forcing every word, trying too hard to be something I'm not. I mean, I had one long-term girlfriend through cold approach, so I know I'm capable of making it work. But lately, nothing. It's as if whatever little magic I had back then just disappeared. I see these guys who have no idea what PUA even stands for, guys who don't even think about tactics. They just exist, and women are drawn to them. And not just good-looking guys either. Average, sometimes even below-average-looking dudes who, for some reason, seem to radiate this effortless charm. Like, how? Is it really just looks? Is it confidence? Or is there some invisible vibe they give off that I'm just missing? Sometimes, I wonder if I'm overthinking it. If all this analysis and self-improvement stuff is backfiring, making me come off as desperate or robotic instead of confident. Honestly, it's exhausting. I wake up every day, psyching myself up to go out there, to make it happen. I've tried cold approaches that leave me feeling embarrassed and out of place, like I'm the guy interrupting a conversation where I don't belong. I've tried dating apps, swiping endlessly, hoping for just one match that actually leads to a date. But I swipe right, and the screen just stays empty. Am I doing something wrong? Am I unattractive? I've asked myself that more times than I'd like to admit. I'll be real, I'm jealous. I look at other guys, sometimes friends, sometimes strangers, and I see how easily things come to them. Women seem to laugh at their jokes, lean in closer, smile without hesitation. I try not to compare, but I can't help it. What do they have that I don't? Is it the way they talk, or how they carry themselves? Is there some hidden quality that I'm missing? It's like watching people walk into a party where you weren't invited, and you're standing outside in the cold, trying to figure out what it takes to get in. I've heard people say, just be yourself. But what if myself isn't enough? What if myself is awkward, average-looking, and not particularly charming? I'm starting to feel like maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Like maybe some guys are born with that natural charisma, that ability to attract women without even realizing it, while others, like me, are left trying to decode a mystery that has no answer. The worst part is, I can feel myself changing. I used to be more confident, but now I second-guess everything. I wonder if that's what's holding me back, if this self-doubt is like a neon sign flashing above my head that says, "Don't bother with him." I try to shake it off, try to tell myself that I just haven't met the right person yet, but it's hard not to spiral sometimes. It's hard not to wonder if I'm doing something fundamentally wrong. I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but I'd love to hear from others who get it. From people who've been in the trenches of dating and felt like they were constantly losing a game they didn't understand. Or maybe from the lucky ones who figured it out. What's the secret? Is there even a secret? Or is it just about luck, timing, and being in the right place at the right moment? I'm not giving up. I can't give up. But right now, it feels like I'm fighting a battle where the odds are stacked against me. I just want to know, what am I missing? What do I need to change? Maybe together, we can figure this out. Maybe there's hope for those of us still searching. Let's talk about it. Let's get real. Before we dive into the comments, let's take a second to reflect. Life can feel like a constant uphill battle, and sometimes it seems like everyone else has it figured out while we're left trying to piece things together. Whether it's relationships, self-improvement, or just making it through the day, we all struggle in different ways. Now, let's hear from everyone who's been there. The people who've lived through the frustration, the hard work, and the journey of figuring out their place in the world. Facing the reality of attraction. Some men are more naturally attractive, better at talking, and seem to have a way with people. For others, guys like me, it's not that easy. We struggle. It's 2 plus 2 equals 4, simple math. Those empty tactics, like the pickup artist, PUA stuff, the endless theories and strategies, they're just a way of avoiding the real issue, which is facing yourself. I've tried so many of those tactics, and what I've learned is that none of them are a substitute for genuine connection. At the end of the day, these quick fix tricks don't change who you are. I know this because I'm not a particularly attractive guy, and I've spent too long hiding behind those tactics, hoping they'd work like magic. Spoiler, they don't. Socializing is key to success. I've been doing a lot of observing, and what I've noticed is that the guys who have the easiest time meeting women are often just more social in general. They're the ones who go to parties, chat people up without a second thought, and engage with others in a playful, effortless way. It's not even about being a Casanova, it's about being comfortable around people. Even in my limited experience, I had more opportunities to meet women when I was younger and out there more, interacting in non-professional settings. A couple of times, women even made the first move, but I wasn't interested. Looking back, I see that being outgoing and social gave me more chances. Shyness and isolation hold me back. I'm a fairly average guy, and most of my friends are too. The difference is, they've all had some kind of relationship experience, and I haven't. It's mostly because I've lived a pretty isolated life socially, and I haven't put much effort into meeting women. I'm naturally shy and passive, which means most of my dating experience has come from apps, or when women were the ones to make the first move. If I were more outgoing and didn't struggle with social anxiety, especially in romantic settings, I'm sure I'd have a partner right now. But it's hard to break out of that mindset when it's become such a big part of who I am. The downside of PUA tactics. I've tried the PUA stuff, but it feels like it's made things worse. It creates this unnatural approach where I'm focused on techniques rather than on being myself or genuinely connecting with someone. It's exhausting, and instead of helping me build confidence, it just leaves me feeling more disconnected. I realize now that it's not about tricking someone into liking you. It's about becoming comfortable with who you are and finding someone who appreciates that. PUA tactics, a phony game. The thing about PUA, pickup artist tactics, is that it encourages you to gamify interactions with people in a way that feels phony and, frankly, off-putting. At its worst, it's dehumanizing. These tactics turn human connection into a formula, a system to manipulate someone into liking you, which is not only wrong, but exhausting. And let's be real, PUA is often just a sales funnel designed to take money from men who are looking for guidance. I've been there, hoping to find the magic trick to relationships, but all I found was a system that left me more disconnected than ever. It's like trying to sell a fake version of yourself to others, and when that fails, the toll it takes on your self-worth is brutal. Manipulation isn't the answer. I think it's important to recognize that the kind of women who fall for PUA tactics are often playing those same games themselves. For me personally, life is already complicated enough, and if someone is engaging in manipulation and mind games in dating, that's not the kind of partner I want. Sure, there might be some valuable bits of advice within the PUA world, but in the long run, most of it only sets you up for failure. Relationships aren't supposed to be about tricking someone into liking you. They should be about genuine connection. Confidence is key, and I'm still working on it myself. It's hard when you're in a tough place, like me, having dropped out of college after 4 years, in between jobs, living in my mom's basement. Who would want to date a guy like that? But I know deep down that it's not as big of a deal as I make it out to be. I've got to remind myself to take baby steps, get that part-time job at a hardware store, build some confidence, and slowly find my way back. The chaos of the job market. The job market is chaos right now. It feels like everything is stacked against us, especially those of us in less respectable jobs. But there's no shame in it. People working retail, customer service, or any other so-called unskilled job deserve so much respect. These jobs take an incredible amount of mental and physical energy, and yet society looks down on them. It's toxic. It's frustrating to see CEOs making 293 times what their lowest-paid employees earn, working a fraction of the hours, while the people on the front lines get paid peanuts. We all know customers can be brutal and entitled, making an already hard job even harder, but the workers keep going. I respect those in retail and customer service so much more than I do white-collar jobs where people clock in for a few hours but get paid for 8 plus. The stress of customer service? 10 years ago, I didn't hate customer service. It was manageable, but even then, you could feel it starting to get worse. Now? It's brutal. The entitlement from customers, the stress of trying to maintain a smile while being treated poorly, all while knowing you're barely making enough to get by. It wears you down. I lasted 9 months working at an ISP call center for inbound retention, and that was one of the most stressful times of my life. I'm not sure how much longer I can do this, but for now, I'm hanging on because I need the income. In the end, whether it's the stress of trying to find love or dealing with the pressures of work, I think it's important to remember to be kind to yourself. We're all dealing with something, and sometimes the weight of it feels unbearable. But taking small steps, finding confidence in the little victories, and realizing that life doesn't need to be gamified or manipulated, those are the things that help us move forward. We all have strengths and weaknesses. Every person has strengths and weaknesses. This, dating, building connections, happens to be one of your weaknesses. It's one of mine too, and probably most people on subreddits like *r/lonely*. It's not about being bad at life. It's about having one particular struggle that we can't seem to get right. For some, it's relationships. For others, it's career, confidence, or something else entirely. Just knowing that we're not alone in this can make it a bit easier to bear. Some people win the genetic lottery. The truth is, some people just hit the genetic lottery. They're born with good looks or an innate charisma that draws others to them. Others grow up in healthy households where their parents teach them how to socialize properly, laying the foundation for confidence and strong relationships later on. Some people are well connected in their communities with a reputation that opens doors and builds trust. And then, there are those who are simply lucky. But what we don't often see is the struggle behind the scenes. Most people have gone through long, awkward phases and made countless mistakes before they figured things out. You're seeing the end result of years of work and fumbling. Cold approaches rarely work for most people, so the fact that you've even had some success with it means you're definitely not ugly or hopeless. But if you want to build meaningful relationships outside of dating apps, you have to become an active participant in your community. Building a reputation matters. In many ways, building a good reputation within your local community is key. It's not just about being attractive, it's about being known as a trustworthy, kind person. When people know you and can vouch for you, that's when connections start to happen. The more you invest in the relationships around you, the more natural your interactions will become. It's less about picking up tactics and more about showing people who you are consistently. The effects of a tough upbringing. For some of us, it's not just about struggling with dating. It's about overcoming a tough upbringing. My parents homeschooled me until 7th grade, and I still resent them for it. At the time, it seemed like no big deal. I got to stay home, do schoolwork in my pajamas. But looking back, I see how it really stunted my social development. I didn't get to go through those critical years learning how to interact with my peers, and it left me socially anxious and awkward, even today. When you grow up in an environment where you don't learn those basic social skills early on, it's a steep uphill battle later in life. You're playing catch-up with things that should feel natural by now, things that seem effortless to others who were given that chance from the start. And it's frustrating. It makes you feel like there's something wrong with you, even when it's not your fault. The luck of the draw. Some people were just dealt a better hand, but that doesn't mean we're destined to fail. What we need is a different approach, one that doesn't rely on quick fixes or fake tactics, but instead focuses on slowly building ourselves up, one small step at a time. Whether it's getting involved in our communities, improving our social skills, or just working on being kind to ourselves during this process, we can still make progress. It might take longer, it might feel harder, but every small effort counts. And it's important to remember, just because some people had a head start doesn't mean we can't get to where we want to be. We just have to keep going. The impact of homeschooling on social skills. Yeah, it's messed up when parents, with the best of intentions, make decisions that ultimately leave you struggling. When I was homeschooled until 7th grade, I didn't realize at the time just how much it would mess with my social skills. The worst part? My parents don't even acknowledge it. They'll tell me my lack of social skills is my fault, like I'm not out here trying. It's frustrating to hear that when you're doing your best to navigate the world they sheltered you from. Homeschooling sounds great on paper, less peer pressure, more personalized learning. But in reality, it can leave you socially stunted. When you don't get that time in school to build relationships, to learn how to interact with others in a group setting, it leaves a mark. You don't develop those early bonds, and suddenly you're in high school, awkwardly trying to figure out how to fit in while everyone else already has their friend groups established. It's not something you can just snap out of. Moving around and losing childhood friends? It's not just homeschooling that can leave you socially behind. When I was a kid, my dad's job had us moving around a lot. Every time I made friends, I had to say goodbye and start over. I lost all of my childhood friends to constant relocation, and by the time I entered high school, I was socially stunted. Everyone else had their established cliques, their shared history, and I felt like I was constantly on the outside looking in. Each move meant leaving behind connections, and eventually, I stopped trying to make new ones. What was the point? They'd just be ripped away again. It's no wonder I went into high school feeling disconnected and unsure of myself. It's hard to build strong social skills when you're always the new kid. The emotional toll of blame. What really messes with your head is when your parents won't even acknowledge the impact their decisions had on you. It's like they don't realize or don't want to admit that they played a part in shaping who you are socially. They'll brush off your struggles as a personal failing, not something they had a hand in. Meanwhile, you're doing your best to connect, to engage, but it always feels like you're catching up to everyone else who got a head start. It's tough when the people who were supposed to prepare you for the world didn't give you the tools you needed, and now they blame you for struggling. And that's the thing about homeschooling or constantly moving as a kid. It isolates you. It keeps you from the natural social growth that school environments offer. Those early years are critical for learning how to interact, and without them, it feels like you're fumbling through interactions that should come naturally. The problem with homeschooling? I think the real issue with homeschooling is the lack of opportunities to socialize. In traditional schools, you're surrounded by peers every day. You have to figure out how to navigate friendships, rivalries, group dynamics, all the things that help you learn who you are in relation to others. Without that, you miss out on key social development. You don't get those awkward middle school experiences that, believe it or not, help you grow. When you're homeschooled, the world feels a lot smaller. Sure, you might learn more academically, but the emotional and social learning falls by the wayside. You're not thrust into those daily interactions where you have to make friends, handle bullies, or work through misunderstandings. And then when you do finally enter a social setting, like high school or a job, it can feel overwhelming. You're suddenly expected to know all these social cues and dynamics that you never had the chance to practice. Trying to fix what wasn't your fault. At the end of the day, it's hard not to feel frustrated when you're doing your best to fix something that wasn't your fault to begin with. Whether it was homeschooling, moving around too much, or just growing up in a household where socializing wasn't prioritized, you're left playing catch-up in a world that doesn't always give you the time to figure it out. And even though it's exhausting, all we can do is keep trying, keep working on ourselves, and hope that someday it gets easier. The role of genetic dispositions in social life. A lot of this, I believe, comes back to genetic dispositions. I'm not just talking about your appearance. Appearance could be a part of it, but even our base personality, or personality traits that come naturally to us, is linked to our brains. The first thing most people know about us is appearance. The better looking you are, the more of a magnet you are. That doesn't mean people will drop anything to come talk to you, but you definitely have a passive pull that makes them want to come talk to you. Someone who is average looking won't really inspire anything, so most people don't often have a reason to go talk to them. Another one is personality. Some people are born with temperaments that allow them to be naturally extroverted, charismatic, outgoing, be drawn towards social interests, etc. Of course, many of these can be developed, but for some people, this comes naturally. For me, I'm very introverted, and I get a thrill mostly from solitary hobbies. I struggled with social awkwardness in the past and worked extensively hard on social and dating life, so I know exactly what you're talking about. There are natural compensatories. What this means is a person can be average-looking in appearance, but if their natural temperament makes them extroverted or charismatic, they have an easier time tapping into that. or an introvert with a highly valuable hobby, or an extroverted friend that introduces them to new people, or one integrated into a community, also has an easier time. The average person needs to do a lot more to build up their value, such as initiating conversation, taking an interest to know people, talking to multiple people at a time, and through that, build social proof that makes others want to come and talk to you. But if their temperament is extroverted, outgoing, or charismatic, or if they're an introvert that's in advantageous positions, that work is made easy and seamless for them because it comes naturally for them. Some of us are not built like that, so when we do them, it feels like a lot of work, and it feels like we have to do a lot of work or we don't get any friends or dates. As an average introverted person who developed extensively on these skills, if I didn't make that decision, I'd be back where I was before. But it was also through that journey that I find I was pressuring myself to be a certain way that just didn't feel right or natural to me. And this was after a couple years developing on them. I am on a different journey. I'm trying to integrate my natural temperament with strategies that come easy for me. Because I'm introverted, yet I built up the skill to start conversations with strangers. I can do fine with cold approach. I'm not saying I get numbers from this. I'm saying I can converse properly with strangers anytime, anywhere. The point is this. We're born with natural dispositions that doesn't give us that advantage in the social realm, so it feels like we have to put in a lot of work to develop traits and behaviors that come naturally to those with a different temperament. Especially when you consider the fact that men are still expected to take the lead in courtship. PUA/red pill/black pill are especially going to be popular with those who are struggling with it. The struggle of feeling like life's losers. Some of us feel like we're just life's losers. We try, we push ourselves, but it always seems like the odds are stacked against us. You look around and see people who seem to navigate life with ease, whether it's relationships, careers, or social situations, and wonder why it's so much harder for you. It's tough to shake the feeling that, no matter how hard you try, you're always falling short. But here's the thing. We're only losers if we let ourselves believe that narrative. Society, especially in this capitalist-driven world, tells us that success is measured by wealth, status, and outward appearances. We've been programmed to think that if we don't hit those milestones, we're failures. But we need to deconstruct that mindset. We need to redefine what success looks like and stop letting shallow, materialistic values dictate our worth. Changing the narrative. We've got to change the narrative that poor people or those working unskilled jobs don't deserve respect. Every job deserves respect. Trading your time for money, whether you're working retail, driving trucks, or hustling in a warehouse, is respectable because you're doing what it takes to survive. That's more valuable than any flashy lifestyle or inflated bank account. It's easy to feel like a loser when society tells you that success is about being rich or owning the latest stuff, but that's not the real measure of a person's worth. Being a loser is not about struggling or working hard. Real losers are those who live selfishly, focus on greed, and refuse to help others when they have the means to do so. It's the ones who build their lives at the expense of others, who are full of themselves and never give back. That's what we should be rejecting. We need to stop feeling ashamed for simply trying to make a living in a system that's rigged against us. You are not a loser, you deserve love. I feel for anyone who feels like they're stuck in this mindset, because I've been there too. But let me tell you, you are not a loser. You have value, and you deserve love and respect just as much as anyone else. Sometimes it's easy to let the weight of the world make you feel small, but you are worthy of all the good things in life. You're putting in the effort, and that alone makes you valuable. Don't let anyone, especially society, tell you otherwise. What can be done? Working on yourself. A lot of people will tell you that the answer is to work on yourself, that being positive and investing in your own growth is what makes you attractive. And there's truth to that. Investing in yourself does help. But sometimes, that advice comes from people who've never really struggled. It's easy for them to say things like, just be positive, because they haven't had to climb out of the same holes we're in. Some people naturally find it easier to succeed, whether it's losing weight, playing sports, or building a social circle. For the rest of us, it feels like we're constantly battling uphill. But even so, working on yourself isn't about becoming attractive to others. It's about doing it for you. Forget about what women or anyone else finds appealing. What's important is that you feel good about yourself. Focus on improving financially, physically, and career-wise, not to attract others, but because you deserve to be the best version of yourself. You owe it to yourself to give 100%, not for the approval of others, but for your own self-respect and fulfillment. The journey of self-improvement. When people tell you to work on yourself, it's not just about changing your appearance or status to fit into some mold that others find attractive. It's about finding a path that makes you feel whole, improving yourself financially, getting into better physical shape, or focusing on your career. These are all important, but they should be done because you deserve it. You deserve to feel secure, confident, and proud of who you are. Women, or what society deems as attractive, shouldn't be your focus. The truth is, 99% of people out there aren't worth changing yourself for. The people who will truly appreciate you are the ones who value you for who you are, not for how closely you match some societal standard. Taking back control of the narrative. We're constantly fed this toxic idea that if we don't have everything figured out, we're losers. That if we don't have the right job, the right looks, or the right relationships, we've failed. But that's just capitalist propaganda talking. We have to take back control of our narrative and remind ourselves that what's valuable in life isn't dictated by external success markers. It's about working hard, surviving, and finding fulfillment in your journey, whatever that looks like. So keep going. Keep working on yourself. Not to prove anything to others, but because you are worth it. You deserve your own best efforts, and that's something no one can take away from you. You're not a loser, and you're not alone in this.